Looking for a spring travel destination? Try the Treefort Music Fest coming to downtown Boise, Idaho, March 26th through the 30th. You can catch the full lineup of over 400 artists at treefortmusicfest.com/lineup. 5-day GA passes start at $366, but the prices are going up March 1, so grab them while you can. Other ticket types include front-of-the-line access, single-day full fest, main stage, single-day, and 4-day. Not to mention hotel packages and fort badges. Find your tickets now at treefortmusicfest.com/tickets. The Last Showgirl and Honora have put Las Vegas in the spotlight this awards season by earning multiple nominations as new movies with a connection to our city. So as we wait for the Oscar results to come in this Sunday, today on CityCast Las Vegas, we're going to revisit a conversation I had with my friend, cinephile and professor Gregory Crosby about the best and worst classic Las Vegas films. It's Wednesday, February 26th. I'm Dayvid Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Gregory, what makes a film a Vegas film?
Well, I've been thinking about this all morning, and really it occurs to me that most Las Vegas movies fall into three categories. The biggest category is just, it's the spectacle, baby. It's Vegas with a dollar sign where the S should be. That is really the majority of films that are set in Vegas are set in Las Vegas in, giant flaming neon letters. Because there's actually, I was going to make a little distinction here, a little subgenre of that, because there's the spectacle Vegas movie that could happen anywhere, and they just happen to set it in Las Vegas. And then there's the Vegas spectacle movie that only could happen in Las Vegas. So really, if you think about a movie like The Hangover, honestly, if we're honest, The Hangover could be set anywhere where there is any kind of resort or tourist permissive place where people, get very, very drunk and do crazy things. A movie like Honeymoon in Vegas, probably the Flying Elvi are not going to come over if that movie was called A Honeymoon in Portland.
Okay. Well, and I think the proof is in the sequels, right?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Even an example, there were all the various Hangover movies, Hangover movie in Thailand,
Exactly.
And it was essentially the same plot. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the big spectacle sort of movie. The movie that could be set anywhere. There's a movie that really kind of has to be set in Las Vegas because that's what's giving it whatever cachet it might have. Again, Viva Las Vegas. Not a great movie, but where are you going to set that movie besides Las Vegas?
Viva Elvis! Viva Anne Margaret! Viva the excitement when these two let themselves go on a wild and woolly whirl through Funtown, USA.
It's literally in the title, Viva Las Vegas, and it trades upon all of the associations for Anne Margaret and Elvis to sort of, pop out from. Here's the big problem is that a lot of movies are set in Las Vegas, but there are very few movies that are actually about Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And those movies that are about Las Vegas on some level are usually only successful because they are somehow about Las Vegas history, which is why probably the best movie about Las Vegas, really, that hits every single check on the list, is something like Scorsese's Casino.
For guys like me, Las Vegas washes away your sins. It's like a morality car wash.
It's a movie that is very much of Vegas, about Vegas, set in Vegas. It's unimaginable anywhere else because it's literally about the history of Las Vegas, albeit one particular, aspect of it, but it's really, really about it. And it gets most of the history, very right. But really the movies that really capture Vegas in all of its aspects are the movies that not only are about Vegas and set in Vegas, but just sort of get into the deep sort of quintessence of some aspect of Vegas. And I found, thinking about it recently, is that a lot of it's really visual. Of course, no duh, it's a movie, right?
It'd be hard to do a Vegas piece that's like full interior in like a Summerlin home, although some have tried.
Yeah, it's not the same thing at all.
It doesn't make sense because the bombast is so ready for the taking. So how can you not depict it?
Unless you have scenes that are set and really the movies that are shot in the city and that really take advantage of all of the city in whatever time period we're talking about are the ones that I keep returning to with a feeling of like, oh yeah, that's Vegas.
And you mentioned Casino. I think Casino is probably, if one were to ask any critic, what are the best generic movies ever made about Las Vegas, Casino would probably top almost everyone's list, or definitely be in the top movies.
I think it would have to. Yeah.
What are the best depictions of Las Vegas on any criteria in film?
All right. Well, you take a movie like 1972's The Night Stalker, directed by Dan Curtis, which for quite a while was the highest rated TV movie ever broadcast.
It's a TV movie.
Yes.
It stars everyone's beloved journalist detective.
Right, Carl Kolchak.
Sunday, May 16th. At approximately 2:30 a.m., Cheryl Hughes was standing at the intersection of Casino Center and Fremont Streets waiting for a girlfriend to give her a lift home.
So, it's a vampire movie. It's just a vampire movie, right? But it's really set in Las Vegas. If you watch it, all of these scenes are shot in Las Vegas, right? One of the opening scenes, the first victim of the vampire is a young woman leaving her shift at Binion's Horseshoe.
Cheryl Hughes, tired and hungry, but just mad enough to walk the 8 blocks to her small frame house off the corner of 9th and Bridger.
I don't know about you, but when I see a movie, an old movie about Vegas that's really set in Las Vegas, that was shot downtown or on the Strip, or just there's a scene where they're in one of the washes, right? That's actually set in the actual desert landscape, and the cars are actually driving in places that actually existed. There's this indescribable feeling. It's not exactly nostalgia, although it's part of that, but it's more of this amazing moment of, oh yeah, that's Vegas. It might be the Vegas of 1972, but it feels like Vegas in a way that a movie that takes place entirely in a made-up casino, right? Or is supposedly in Vegas, but you can sort of tell when they shoot it that they're really not shooting this in Vegas. A prime example recently of that would be the TV show Hacks, right? Where, it's supposedly set in Las Vegas, but then they cut to scenes where it's like, yeah, that's not in Las Vegas. That's fine, whatever. You just sort of roll with it. But to watch a movie where it's actually shot and has that feeling of it, to me, is more and more are the Vegas movies that I really, really appreciate. One of the other movies that sort of had that feeling for me was the 2011 remake of Fright Night,
which you made me watch,
which I made you watch,
which was enjoyable, but we did have different takeaways. So
we did have different takeaways. Well, my takeaway was just half of the movie takes place in one of those classic master plan communities, right? And I remember seeing it here in New York and having that strange feeling of like, oh, I know exactly that street, those houses. I know exactly how it feels to be in that environment.
Well, the one part of that I agreed with you wholeheartedly was just this great cinematic helicopter shot, basically, right?
Yeah.
It's at night. You see the entirety of the Strip as literally a strip kind of at the top of the screen, illuminated as it is. And then you see this vast sort of desert area that you and I both know is filled with homes and stuff. But for the purpose of the shot, it was kind of, desert-y in its fullest.
Right.
And then you hit the lights of a master plan community, which is a very Vegas thing. And in a vampire setting, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And once upon a time, that shot would have existed. There would have been some community where at a certain point in the growth, if you saw it from above at night, would have just been this weird little isolated, grid of lights.
As you've told me, where better for vampires than a 24-hour city to prey on the night shift.
Exactly.
Hey friends, if you love CityCast, there's a way to do us a solid by helping us win Best Vegas Podcast in the Las Vegas Weekly's Best of Vegas Awards. Even if you only just want to vote for this category, it literally takes 10 seconds. So head on over to LasVegasWeekly.com/Best of Vegas 2025 and find Best Vegas Podcast under Arts and Entertainment. Las Vegas is putting out great weekly and monthly pods for sure, but if you found even one episode of our daily podcast to be indispensable, whether it was our in-depth reporting about the Tesla tunnels, life in a sex club, changing gambling odds, or the best new restaurants you've never heard of, we'd find your vote for us to be an excellent thank you. So head on over to LasVegasWeekly.com/Best of Vegas 2025 and vote for CityCast Las Vegas.
TaxAct knows small business owners can sometimes use a little help with their taxes. That's why TaxAct has Expert Assist, a team of live tax experts ready to answer any questions you may have. Think of them as your own personal sidekick. Not like one of those funny talking animal sidekicks, more like the super smart nerding out on tax code and business casual attire sidekick, but just as helpful and lovable. TaxAct. Let's get them over with.
Let me shift gears and describe another movie which no one knows because it's an art film, and that's Nina Menke's Queen of Diamonds from 1991. A movie about a young woman who is a dealer at the long and lamented and long gone Vegas world, which for those of you who only arrived in Las Vegas the other day is what is now occupied by the Stratosphere Tower.
It's called the Strat, New Yorker.
Yeah.
They've rebranded.
I'm not. One of the pleasures of being an old school Las Vegas person is I don't agree with rebranding. So I'm still going to call it Treasure Island, not TI, and I'm still going to refer to it as the Stratosphere Tower and not the Strat.
And anyway, you still call the Win the DI. I get it. Okay,
exactly.
So Queen of Diamonds.
The Queen of Diamonds. It's this young woman. She's a dealer, and she's just a lost soul. The movie just sort of follows her around, having all these strange encounters, right, with various denizens and various characters. And yet the movie is shot right there, right downtown in the shadow of Vegas world. And again, it's an art film. It has its longueurs, there's little sort of boring stretches. But as an experiential sort of experience, sitting there watching it, it feels as if you've just slipped sideways in time back into early 90s Las Vegas. And for me, more and more, those are the movies that really, the movies that somehow have captured the actual lived environment. That almost in the way of a documentary.
Yeah, and the color palette too. I mean, the Queen of Diamonds really strikes me for some of the what actually amount to stills, but they're moving cinema. Yeah. Just these long, lingering shots, like of her behind the giant wheel. That was a big part of Vegas World. Just the colors and the sounds and all that stuff, all there, right?
Yeah, it's all there, and it's a movie that gives one the feeling of Las Vegas more than any number of movies that are more ostensibly about a very Vegas aspect of Vegas.
Right. And it feels lived in Vegas.
Yeah. And here's the other curious thing. So just to contrast that, because I was just talking about movies that were clearly shot in Vegas at the time, they've captured like time capsules, those versions of Vegas, right? Another movie that does that, weirdly, is Francis Ford Coppola's One from the Heart from 1982, which famously, the entire thing is built on a soundstage. So Coppola didn't shoot in Las Vegas, and yet so meticulous was the recreation of say downtown
Fremont Street
or Fremont Street. Toward the end of the movie, Frederick Forrest's character is like rushing to try to convince Terry Garr not to leave, and he pulls up in front of the old McCarran Airport. I remember seeing that for the first time and having this vivid Proustian rush of like, oh, I remember pulling up to McCarran Airport before it was redone. And here it is, right?
So we talked about some of these films that have really depicted the local or lived-in experience of Las Vegas. So what are the worst depictions of Las Vegas?
Most of them. I mean, the first thing that leaps to mind is something like Con Air, right? Leaving Las Vegas is to me a terrible. Again, Leaving Las Vegas is a movie. Nicolas Cage's character could have drank himself to death anywhere, right? There's nothing very specifically Vegas about that. Most depictions of Vegas are just that thing where it's like we're going to use Vegas for a joke or as a backdrop because everyone knows what Las Vegas means when it enters into the story, right? Which is all the usual cliched, stereotypical things that Vegas means.
Excess,
right? Excess, the whole thing, right?
Abandon.
I want to point out a movie that's not completely set in Vegas, but actually captures that kind of aspect where it's like, we need Vegas for this plot point. And yet at the same time makes it feel very real and like, oh, and that's Albert Brooks' Lost in America. from 1985.
Yeah.
Right? When the whole scene when he's trying to get the money back, right? That movie doesn't work unless those characters go to a place like Vegas where Julie Haggerty's character, who's never gambled in her life, suddenly discovers gambling.
Come on, 22.
How down are you?
Down,
How much
down.
have you lost?
Everything.
What does that mean?
Everything.
No, what do you mean?
Everything
What do you
on
mean? What is
22
everything?
and
What are
make
you
it
doing?
happen for me.
Why the hell are you betting all that on one number? What did you get?
And loses their entire retirement nest egg. That's a funny movie, a great example of a movie that, okay, this had to be in Vegas, but you did it right. Or do you disagree?
No, I fully agree.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. I fully agree with the scene in Lost in America. I think it's one of the most interesting depictions of visitor coming here and interaction with the casino manager, all that stuff. It's such a great scene. I'm going to respectfully disagree with Leaving Las Vegas. The adaptation of a very interesting novel of somebody who's so desperate that they felt like Las Vegas would be the place where they could just disintegrate. And I think a lot of people do have that view. And so I accept that as being a Las Vegas film. But what about really, really bad depictions of Las Vegas, Gregory? Come on, spill some that sucked tea. I know you're good at that.
Here's a really, really terrible depiction of Las Vegas that isn't even a depiction of Las Vegas.
Give it to me.
And that would be the version of Vegas that shows up in Blade Runner 2049.
Okay.
Where it's this projected future version of Las Vegas that has now been, abandoned, has fallen to ruin. And it is such an over-the-top projection of all of those cliched ideas about Las Vegas that someone would imagine, oh, well, that's clearly where Vegas is going to wind up. The way the architecture is going, there's just going to be giant stripper statues and whatnot. You get where they're going with that. But at the same time, it feels, as someone who grew up in Las Vegas, too on the nose.
And it cheapens our experience in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah. It's the same feeling I had as a kid reading The Stand and feeling like, really, all the evil characters are going to go to Las Vegas. I get why you picked it that way, but really, it's one of those things where if you're someone from that place, it's the classic problem. Everybody's home is someone else's postcard. And in Vegas, that problem is multiplied 1,000-fold. 10,000-fold, right?
And it's funny now. So, when you were touting some of your favorites before we got into it, you're talking about vampire movies. And now when you're talking about your least favorite, you're talking about apocalyptic films. And there are quite a handful of apocalyptic films. I would venture to say that the Army of the Dead might be the worst Las Vegas movie ever made.
I would agree with you if I'd seen it, but I avoided it.
Please do. Don't even go there. Probably we can name off a dozen apocalyptic films where the filmmaker's vision of where society denigrates and, it absolutely dissolves itself is Las Vegas. Damnation Alley.
I was just about to say Damnation. Yeah. The brilliance of Damnation Alley is not only do the survivors roll into Vegas, but somehow the power is still on in the completely emptied casino, and one of the characters says the immortal line:
"Boy, nothing changes. Bomb or no bomb, the lights never go out in Vegas."
The lights never go out in Vegas, right? Even though that
even
makes
after the
no
apocalypse.
sense. Yeah, makes no sense whatsoever in this apocalyptic landscape,
And I love that Circus is still standing. Because that's the brilliance. Like when everything else is gone, Circus will still be standing.
Yeah.
A lot of films in Las Vegas, right? Circus in itself had a lot of films. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Diamonds Are Forever, the Bond film and stuff.
Sure.
And we could talk about these films forever and ever, but I want to end this way. Why do Las Vegas people care about how we are depicted in those films? Why do we care so much?
Well, for the exact same reason I was just saying. It's because no one has made a film about Las Vegas that captures everything that Las Vegas is, including all of the over-the-top outrageousness of Vegas. And I don't think anybody really is going to, unless the filmmaker in question is somebody who grew up in Las Vegas, somebody who is from Las Vegas. No one's really done a movie that is not just set in Vegas, but is really about Vegas, right? Because there's been movies that are just, normal, like Pay It Forward, right? Or Fools Rush In, which are simply set in Vegas, but they're the kinds of stories that you think, well, these are actual real people these stories about. It's not Showgirls, right?
I'm really glad that you mentioned Showgirls. You and I diverge, I think, on Showgirls more prominently than any other film. I love that film. I watch that film once a year near my birthday just to remind me how much I love that film. And Showgirls was that, remarkably ridiculous, over the top, scene chewing, overwrought, depiction of a gal who winds up in Las Vegas, all about Eves her way into the main showroom at the Stardust Hotel. And then, her entire life comes crumbling apart. Yeah. But not before, some of the best scenes in Vegas cinematic history that depict and from my perspective, depict how Vegas is viewed by people who may never have been to Vegas in their lives.
Yeah. If Casino is the gilt-edged, highly respectable, high art book about Las Vegas, then Showgirls is the absolutely lurid, cheap-ass paperback that you didn't buy from the drugstore. You found it in the gutter and read as you were sitting on the curb, desperately hoping that you would somehow figure out some way to, find a place to sleep tonight because you were so completely, wasted and busted and flat ass broke. So yeah, Showgirls has its. I don't hate Showgirls. It's just, at the time it came out,
you don't respect Showgirls.
I don't necessarily respect Showgirls, but Showgirls is a lot of fun, obviously, right? Unlike a movie like Leaving Las Vegas, which is no fun whatsoever, and I still think it's very, very overrated.
Greg Crosby, thank you for joining me on CityCast Las Vegas this morning. Great to see you, my old friend.
Thank you, David.
And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend? You could also rate our show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky. I don't know all your setups for punchlines, Gregory.
You don't know the exchange from The Princess Bride? Have fun storming the castle. You think it'll work?
You think it'll work?
It'll take a miracle.
It'll take a miracle.
That's
Thank
how
you,
it
Max.
works. You're welcome.